Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to episode 11 of African Techpreneur. Now, I have some exciting news for IT Varsity students. We are working with an organization based in Johannesburg called Tushia, which is a business consulting service, and they are offering cash prizes to IT Varsity students who come up with a name for a project that they are running, as well as a logo and a corporate identity for that project. So the logo as well as the color schemes and things like that. So a little later today we'll be putting out the briefing, and also tomorrow at 3 o'clock we are going to have a briefing session with them and the IT Varsity students. So we'll be sharing that the Zoom meeting link on Slack. So that's going to be very exciting because this is a project that has very high visibility. It's funded by SECO, the Swiss Secretariat for Economic Cooperation, which is incidentally the same organization that is funding the IT Varsity's Ilembe ICT project, the one we attended on Monday, which was such a phenomenal event. So it's funded by the Swiss government. So one is if you are selected, if your work is selected, you will win a cash prize. But also there's the exposure that goes with being associated with a project like this. This is a project that's going to run over a few years, and there's millions of rands being invested in it. And imagine every time that project, when they put their website, when they put out call out, when they put out information, your logo that you created will be on that. And that's going to be open to all IT Varsity students. So we're going to have your creative juices flowing over the next couple of weeks. There's very tight deadlines, so you guys will have to think about it very, very quickly. Support team, I will be in touch with you guys about this whole rollout so you can better inform the students about it. Okay, on to today's topic. As advertised, as promised, relationships. Relationships are so important, interpersonal relationships. And yet, as human beings, what surprises me a lot is people always, when I do talks at companies and organizations, people ask me about AI. How are we going to cope with AI in the future? How are we going to, is AI going to be dangerous to us as human beings? But the irony I find in all of this is we are concerned about something that hasn't even happened yet, but yet we don't even have our own act together with our fellow human beings. So we are concerned about how we are going to coexist with AI, but we can't coexist with our fellow human beings. And that worries me. It's very, very worrying that in today's day and age, that we as human beings, we have so much of difficulty working with our own species. Forget aliens, forget AI, with our own species. And this manifests itself in so many different ways, right? On a very, very personal level, it manifests itself in our relationships with our partners, our spouses. We find this is problematic. Across the board, there are all kinds of domestic problems. Everything from something as simple as not being able to deal with arguments and issues to abuse, physical abuse. Then when we take it to our professional level, we find this constant friction between co-workers. Then when we take it on a community level, we are finding ugly things like racism rearing its head every now and again, intolerance. So what is going on? Why is the human race so messed up? And this is the 21st century, right? We were supposed to be the pinnacle of human development from the early days of humans up until now. We are technologically advanced. We according to scientists, we are generally more intelligent than people about 300-400 years ago. So why can't we cope with each other? Why is there always constant friction? So I put this down to essentially two issues. One is on a personal level. Our parents, and they did excellent jobs, right? I'm not picking on my parents or anybody's parents, but I don't think they were equipped to teach us how to deal with relationship issues. And the second thing is, at school, we are taught a whole lot of things. We are taught maths and science and geography and, so many different things, but we are not taught anything about interpersonal relationships. I mean, if you attended a school where you were taught interpersonal relationships, then you are very, very, very fortunate, because I haven't heard of a school to date that teaches kids how to cooperate with one another. It's all about how you sit there like a little computer and you just basically download everything the teacher is giving you. And the only relationship you have to be concerned about in school is your relationship with the teacher. That is, don't get into the teacher's bad books, get into the teacher's good books by doing your work, which is very artificial. It's very false. It's very fake, and I hate it. But you guys are very familiar with my feelings around the whole schooling system and everything that's wrong with it. So I don't want to go down a rant. Now, this has left us very ill-equipped to deal with our relationships, right? So when we get into our first romantic relationship, for example, we don't know how to deal with it. I mean, nowadays people are 21 and 22 years old and they're still kids. They're still naive when it comes to relationships. Then when we get our jobs, when we go into the corporate world, we start working for a company, we have absolutely no idea. A young person might want to start her own business and she has no idea how to network with people, how to conduct herself, how to deal with her staff. And this creates all kinds of problems. What we need is for people to start learning interpersonal skills, to be actively taught interpersonal skills from a very, very young age. I mean, we all experience this, that when we are toddlers, boys are generally more aggressive than girls. So they need to be taught from that young age what is good conduct, what is the way to behave. And we need to be actively taught this at home, as well as at school, as well as at university. Which also there, it doesn't happen. I mean, I don't know personally, maybe some of you here might know of a university that teaches interpersonal skills, that teaches how to network with people, that teaches how to use social media responsibly. I don't know about it. I think, as far as I can tell, and no bragging here, but IT Varsity is the only institute that I know of that actually encourages youth from almost day one, that encourages students from almost day one to start building up their networks. Go on to LinkedIn, set up your profile, start sharing content, start engaging, be known, make yourself known, show your progress. I don't know of any other institute that does that, which is really, really sad, because it's one of the most important things you can do. It's building up your networks. They say your net worth is in direct proportion to your net work. So the more people you have in your network, the better you will do in your career as well as in your business. And we all have experienced that. I don't want to go too much into that. So and look, the time to start building up your network is not when you graduate. It's not when you start looking for a job. That's wrong. I mean, you don't start cooking the food when you're already starving, right? You prepare in advance. You start preparing your supper at least 2-3 hours in advance, because you know at a certain time, at 5 o'clock is your meal time, you're going to get hungry, you're going to need to eat. So you prepare in advance. With everything else, you need to prepare in advance. So with networks, you don't prepare the day you graduate. Now you start sending out your CV and think you're going to get a job. It doesn't work like that. You have to start preparing years in advance. Literally years in advance. I would say at least 3 years in advance, you start preparing your network. Now, the entrepreneur course is only 1 year. So entrepreneur students have to actually do it in an accelerated manner. You have to do it in a much more accelerated manner than everyone else. And on the topic of networks, people send out their CVs and expect that somebody might pick it up. Listen to me, guys. That doesn't work. Your CV is only the semi-final step before the actual interview. So any recruiter has a stack of CVs sitting on her desk or his desk. People send me CVs all the time. I don't have time to look at most of them. And I'll be honest, I don't have much time. And if I do get around to it, what does a CV tell me about a person? It's just a 1 page or a 2 page or a 3 page, just a list of accomplishments and qualifications. It doesn't talk about who you are. What you need to do is build up your profile in the real world, on social media and everywhere else. Build up your networks. Learn how to deal with people. Learn how to start up relationships. Network. Get yourself out there. Then when you send your CV, it's an eye catcher. This guy Bilal Katrada. I saw him on LinkedIn. I saw his videos. Interesting stuff. Maybe let me look at his CV. Wow, okay, that's his CV. So that's how people that's how you get yourself out there. So this whole thing about networking, interpersonal skills, this is very, very important. These are critical skills which are now core in entrepreneur. But not just that, but it's also going to be a very big part of this program that I'm doing. In fact, from next week, I'm launching a series of topics.
I didn't catch that.
We are launching from next week's episode of African Techpreneur, I'm going to be talking about how to make yourself more employable, how to build up your networks, etc. That's starting next week. So coming back to relationships. Now, in any relationship between two people, you must understand that human relationships are not linear. We are not computers, and human beings are multidimensional creatures. We are emotional creatures. We have things that happen to us, maybe physically, maybe emotionally, that affect our moods. And with any relationship, there's always the up times and then there's the down times, right? There are times when things are going good. You guys have experienced that. Whether it's with your parents or your spouse or your partner, your friends, your co-workers, there are times when things are going good. When everybody is happy, you are happy with them, they are happy with you. It's all, sunshine all the way. But then you also know there are times when the relationship takes a dive. For whatever reason. Maybe the other person is not in a good mood. Maybe the person said something that upset you. Maybe, who knows? I don't know. So you have days when things are good and you have days when things are down. And then there's days that are good. So that's your sine wave. This is what I call the sine wave of relationships. And it's bound to happen. And you know what? The more love and the more passion there is in a relationship, the higher the sine wave and the lower the sine wave. So basically, your crests are higher and your troughs are lower. In other words, where there is a lot of passion and there's a lot of love and there's a lot of flame in that relationship, the highs are much higher and the lows are much lower. It's human nature. There's nothing we can do about it. And in relationships where the sine wave is like this, it's like kind of little just bumps up and down, up and down, up and down, that relationship is in trouble, because that shows that that's not really a healthy relationship. That is a relationship that doesn't have any spark. I mean, think of this huge corporate grey building where people just walk in like zombies every day, do their work, walk out. There's no creativity, there's no passion, there's no real motivation. People just do their things like robots and they come out. In those environments, you're going to get that little bumps of, now and again people meet up at the water cooler, they talk, hey, how was your weekend? But in a vibrant organization, in a fast growing organization like IT Varsity, there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of change taking place all the time. So it's going to be up and down, up and down, up and down. And that is a healthy relationship. In fact, I heard a marriage counselor talking once, and he said, if you are not getting those up and downs, if you don't have those in your marriage, then your marriage is in trouble because there's no spark. And what you should do is find a reason to make a fight so that you create the ups and downs. So any relationship has that. Now, how do we deal with this? So we understand that every relationship has the happy days and the sad days. So how we deal with this is, during the happy days, we do the A. A stands for, anybody? Anybody wants to guess? The A stands for appreciation. So when things are good, we appreciate it. And when things are down, we go to the E, empathy. Empathy means to put yourself into that person's shoes. Now, when you let's say I wake up one morning and I'm on Slack and I see Morgan is a bit terse with me. Sorry, Morgan, but I'm using you as an example here. So Morgan is a bit terse with me. What do I do at that stage? I know that Morgan is a terrific guy. I know Morgan is very passionate about his work. But, today he was a bit... Now, how do I respond? Do I say, hey, dude, what's the matter with you? I hate you. Or do I think to myself, hey, you know what? Perhaps he's not having a good day. Maybe, he had a bad evening. Something might have happened that caused him to be in a bad mood. I'll step back a little, and when the time is right, I'll probably go and ask him, hey dude, what's happening? You're not your normal self. So appreciation when things are good, and empathy when things are not so good. And a lot of times we have to understand, not just when a person is in a bad mood, we have to understand the mindset of that person, right? And this is something I always say to guys in relationships. These jokes about wives nagging their husbands and wives being, or girlfriends just demanding stuff. I don't for a moment buy this nonsense, right? I think that guys need to understand that a woman, she it's such a delicate matter, from a man's perspective. Your wife or your girlfriend is she wants to be the best version of herself for you, right? If a guy has to see it like that, And the only reason she's asking for these things is because she can be the best version for you. Just like we like to be the best version for them, so she likes to be the best version for you. And that's how relationships are. So if a guy understands it from that perspective, it'll be such a healthy relationship. It's the same in the workplace, right? There are certain people, and I'll talk about this a little later. There are certain people with a certain mindset. And if you crawl into their minds and you understand who they are and what it means to them, then you will learn to appreciate the type of people they are, and you'll build a much better relationship. So let's recap that. When things are good, appreciation. When things are bad, empathy. But then what does the C stand for? The C is probably the most important thing. Communication. Communication. Again, I am so frustrated when I look at school, when I look at university, when I look at our 12 years of school and 4 years of university. No one teaches us communication. And I'm not talking about languages here. I'm talking about just communicating to somebody something that you are feeling, right? Again, coming to myself and Morgan, that little fallout that we had earlier, right? So, look, when things are going good, what stops me from saying to Morgan, hey, I really appreciate the fact that we work together. Why don't we do that? I mean, when in a spousal relationship or in a romantic relationship, what holds us back from just daily expressing our appreciation to our partner? Hey, I really love you, and I'm grateful that you are in my life. It'll mean so much to that person. So when things are going good, we tend to take it like, all right, things are good. Let's take it for granted. But we need to express that appreciation, and that applies more for you guys who are project managers at IT Varsity. You got these people working with you. Just express your appreciation. And to everyone else in general, the people around you, just express it. I mean, let me ask you a question, right? And this is something for some introspection. When last did you compliment your mom for the food that she's made? Or just thank her for bringing you into the world and looking after you, your parents, the people around you, the people close to you. When last did you just give them a hug and say, I'm so happy that you are in my life? So that communication it always needs to be there, right? Especially in the good times. Then when the bad times come, also there's communication. They say that the problem with us nowadays is that when we are happy, when we are upset with somebody, we'll tell the whole world, but we won't tell the person that we are upset with. So now I'm upset with Morgan, then I'll go and tell Akifa, and I'll tell Tefo and Sherban, everybody, but I won't tell Morgan, dude, I was kind of upset with the way you spoke to me today. I understand maybe you're going through something, whatever. But we'll tell everybody else. But that's wrong. It's the direct opposite of what's supposed to happen. And the reason we do this is because we want to avoid that conversation. We want to avoid that little bit of an unpleasant conversation that might ensue. We're kind of scared to go and approach that person. But listen to me. Trust me. If you go and you communicate to this person in the right way, with tact, with diplomacy, it will make a massive, massive difference to your relationship. So guys, keep that communication flowing all the time. At work, at home, in your personal and your professional relationships. Keep that communication flowing, because if the communication is not there, especially when things are a bit rough, these things get bottled up inside. They get bottled up, and eventually it explodes. And that's the worst thing you can do, right? Let's say your partner is doing something on a regular basis that kind of peeves you. And and you don't say anything about it, eventually it's going to come out, but it's going to come out in the ugliest way. So rather you deal with it in a diplomatic way. Now, diplomatic conversation, how does that work? That's out of the scope of this webinar. I mean, this is a 30-minute episode. I think it's something we all have to learn about, and it's a lifelong learning process. I mean, last week we spoke about lifelong learning. So pick up a book, pick up a course, learn about proper human communications, whether it's verbal, physical, body language, written communication, and make it a point to be an excellent communicator. And I don't mean public speaking. I mean just interpersonal. Okay, so there's that part about the ACE of relationships: appreciation, empathy, communication. And the communication is the connection in between. It's the Wi-Fi link in between appreciation and empathy. You'll better appreciate people if you understand who they are. And the only way to understand is to communicate. Abraham Lincoln once said, "I don't like that man. I think I need to get to know him better." So if you don't like somebody, get to know them. Crawl into their shoes. Walk a mile in their shoes. Understand who they are. Then you'll get an appreciation. I think if we were all, if we all had this ACE, we wouldn't have problems in the world. We wouldn't have things like racism. We wouldn't have things like domestic violence and, okay, domestic violence, there's lots of other reasons for it, but it would be at a very, very minimal. Now, in the workplace, I'm going to give you something. I'm going to give you some tips on the E in the workplace. Now, in any business, you are going to get essentially 3 species of human being, right? I know it sounds funny, like human beings are one species, but I don't believe that. I believe that human beings are 3 different species. The one species are the technical-minded people, the people who are the doers, the mechanics, the coders, the creatives, the artists. Then the next category of people are the managers. The managers don't do much themselves, but they get things done through the tech people. And then you got the third species, which are the entrepreneurs, the visionary people. The visionary people are the ones that do more thinking than any doing at all. These guys do almost nothing. I won't say which one of us is the entrepreneur here, the visionary, but these guys all have the big picture in mind. Entrepreneurs, visionaries always have the big picture in mind. They're always out there in one part of the world or another. They're in one meeting, they're tying up one deal or another, and they're coming up with one grand idea or the other. And they filter this down to the manager, and the manager filters that down to the tech people, the doers. Now, this is a structure, this is a relationship that is essential for human civilization, not just for business. Throughout human civilization, there's always been these 3 people, these 3 species of human beings, these 3 categories of human beings. And where they found ways to work together beautifully, there's always been rise of civilizations, rise of businesses, rise of highly successful businesses like Apple. The visionaries, the management, the experts in their fields, all working together. So there's a flow of communication. But by default, these 3 species do not get along. They absolutely despise one another, because the manager complains to the visionary, the entrepreneur, "You are making my life difficult. You're always coming up with something new. I just sorted this out and we just used to this project, and now you bring another project. We just signed up 200 students, now you bring another 200 students." That kind of thing. Managers like order. They like putting things into boxes. They like putting things into shelves. Entrepreneurs hate that. They can't live with that. They can't be boxed in. which is perfect because that's their role in this world. They are the big thinkers. They are the visionaries. They are the ones that are thinking about what's the next thing, that Thomas Edison's and the Steve Jobs and the Steven Spielbergs. So managers despise that because they like order, they like predictability, they like that tomorrow must be the same as today and the day after must be the same as tomorrow. Now what managers try to do is they try to do the same with the downstream people who are the doers. Now the doers, the tech people, are the most important people in this whole structure here, because without them nothing gets done. Without the farmer plowing the field, without the coder doing the actual code, without the mechanic fixing up the cars or building the vehicles, the engines, none of this happens. You can have all the visions in the world and the best managers in the world, but there's no one to do the work. If there's no one to do the work, nothing is going to get done. Now, the hands-on people don't like managers because they don't like being boxed in. They are like, dude, I know my work. Don't tell me what to do. And please get all the way off my back. But the manager is like, how's it going? How's it going? Do it like this, do it like that, do it like that. And they're a bit of a nag. But it's their nature. It's their nature. It's their power. It's their superpower. Let's put it that way. And we, on either end of the managers, the visionaries and the doers, we need to understand the mindset of the manager. You can think of a good manager like a pit bull dog, right? Who, you give the pit bull a stick and it bites it, and you can try and yank it, it'll never. So a good manager is like that. It's a person who's given something to do by the visionary and he just has to do it. He has to get it done. And that's what makes excellent project managers. That's why, I'm in my work as a software engineer, the most despised people, and I feel sorry for them, were project managers. Nobody liked project managers. Nobody likes middle managers. But they have a very key role to play in any organization and any business. Now, this applies to all aspects of human behavior, not just in the corporate world, not only if you are working for a company. If you start a business, and this is where most people fail with their businesses. Let's say, for example, one of you IT Varsity students decides after you graduate, you want to start your own web design business. That's why they say, get a co-founder to work with you, because you are excellent as a doer, but the better you are as a doer, as a coder, the worse you will be as a manager, and even worse as a visionary. Remember that, right? So these things are mutually exclusive almost. It's like a sliding box. The more you have of one, the less you have of another. Very rarely will you get a person who straddles more than one. For example, I can regard myself as an excellent coder, but I'm also a visionary, right? But I'm absolutely useless manager. I think when they were giving out management skills, I forgot to put that in my calendar. So you'll find yourself in one of these three, and where you are means you need to bring on other people who will complement your skill. So if Palesa, for example, is an excellent coder, she needs to bring somebody on board with her who is a good manager. The vision can come from the two of them, but the manager and the coder needs to work together. The manager will be the person that makes sure projects get done, that makes sure invoices go out, that makes sure staff are paid on time, that proposals are properly done on the due date, sent out. These things are important. We as coders, we tend to get so absorbed into our work, we forget about important things like that, like running businesses, everything else that got to do with running a business, including things like budgets. So guys, remember, 3 tiers: visionary, manager, and your tech people. And these three levels of human being are what makes any business, any community, any civilization successful. We need to empathize with the person who's not us, right? So if you're a coder, if you're a doer, and that project manager is on your case, understand this person has a job to do. And for the manager, this visionary is always throwing something at you. Understand that without that vision, there is no growth, there is no progress, there is no innovation. So, and the visionary needs to understand that it stresses out the people downstream when things are moving too far, too fast. So find a way to manage that. Awesome stuff. With those few words, I will conclude, and I will hand it back to you, Akifa. Are there any questions? I'm sure there must be questions, right?
No, there's no questions actually. There's a couple of comments coming through.
Go for it.
I think Ridwan gets our commentator award for the week.
Ridwan is my favorite.
So he is. So he's saying listening is one of his communication skills, which is so cool, you know. And then Malefe is saying, I love what you're saying about diplomatic communication. I found myself struggling when it comes to communicating with people. Okay, so there's a challenge over there. Ilechle is saying communication is key. Yeah, so basically everyone was just sharing their comments on that. Okay, so I want to get to a question actually from myself. And maybe this is someone in the audience maybe asking this as well. You're talking about highs and lows, and you know how it's directly proportional to basically the level of interest in those kind of relationships. What about understanding, and they always say this is one of those challenging decisions, when to stick around and fight for that relationship, and when to know to leave. You know, you need to leave this relationship. And whether that is a professional relationship or even a personal one, I think, you know, it applies to both. So what are the type of indicators, you know, like, because obviously it's a difficult one, but what kind of indicators would you look at to basically make that decision?
Yeah, so I think this is a very broad topic. It's an excellent question, but it's an extremely broad topic because it brings in decision-making skills also, right? That's another thing we all need, because that's a very crucial decision. And let me give you an example. Somebody asked a question in one of the forums that I'm a part of, that I've been working at this software development company, and it seems that I'm doing for the past 2 years is maintenance work. I'm not growing, I'm not learning. Should I leave that company and go to another company? So, I mean, that's a very important decision that person has to make, whether to break that relationship off with his existing company or not. I think it's hard to put a blanket ruling on it. The answer, the simple answer would be that if this relationship has become very toxic, and after due consultation with the right people who have the right skills to be able to advise you, like a counselor or or some kind of relationship expert, after having consulted that person, you see that this relationship just has no way forward. I think the best thing you can do is cut it out at the same time, because that relationship is now like, you're trying to climb up a wall or a rock face, and you just got these big huge rocks tied up to you. Cut it and move forward. They say you need to pull out that band-aid. But then it's not something to be taken lightly, right? It's something that's very serious. So you need to get the right advice, build up the skills firstly, and then take the right advice, and then decide whether the relationship is salvageable or it's not salvageable. That would be my advice.
Cool. Thank you so much for that. I'm looking at the comments and there's no questions coming through. Is there any last words or anything that you'd like to end with, Philo?
I think
You're skipping the C.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, what's really important is last week's topic actually bleeds over into today's topic, right? It kind of the whole theme of lifelong learning, it applies here, as much as it applied then. So this is one of the key aspects of communication, and there are lots of excellent books on communication. I mean, the one book that comes to mind is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. If you can afford to do the course, the Dale Carnegie course, it's an excellent book. It's an excellent course. I did the course many years ago, but if you can't afford the course, get the book, and I think the book is available for free nowadays. And read it. It gives you very good. Actually, it gives you an excellent grounding on human communications. I mean, take something as simple as when you meet a person for the first time, just remembering their name. That's something up till today I still have a problem with. So those kind of things we need to learn as part of our communication skills. Read the book, and I'm sure it will benefit you. With those few words, I think we will conclude today. We've already gone 1 minute over time. Once again, I thank you for taking the time to be here, and I'm looking forward to the next few episodes, the one on making yourself more employable. Awesome stuff. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.